What is excessive use of force? What is it to the law enforcement, or what is it to anybody else? It could be interpreted in many different ways. Use of force is used to subdue a suspect. Usually it involves physical restraint. It's deemed reasonably necessary only for those reasons. For example, when it's excessive, that's when it is only used beyond what is reasonable for that incident. Some examples of physical force could be the law enforcement is using tactics of beating the suspect or kicking them, putting them in a chokehold, other forms of excessive physical that doesn't need to be there. What is the standard for law enforcement when it comes to use of force? Really, it best describes it for them to make the objectively reasonable decision. Usually, it's when authorized officers or agents able to objectively use force only when it's necessary so that they can carry out their own duties. With the case of Perry versus Ohio, law enforcement now can have search and seizure if they have reasonable doubt. This could raise flags for more physical interaction between the suspects and the law enforcement, and this could then cause more use of force issues between them, which gives more of the struggle. This could be debatable as to why use of force comes in more cases than not. There are 4 key points of deception when it comes to the law enforcement only perceived because of, say, one, which would be the media. A lot of people only know of the use of force examples because of what they've seen on TV or, social media, other examples of that. 2 would be the perception of what their friend experienced versus what really happened, or it's only a one-sided story. 3, they're more biased to how they feel about the law enforcement because of how the law enforcement is in their area versus another area. They've already made up their mind on how they feel about it. Or 4, which would be the video, which we haven't gotten into yet, but it has its positives and its negatives, but it could be conflicting because of what is caught on video could explain in a good way or a bad way against law enforcement, or it could help them. Video and audio recordings could be beneficial for law enforcement. It is two-sided. It does have positives and negatives. Some positives, it could show and prove that there were bad eggs in the law enforcement positions that we need to get rid of. Or it does promote that there's going to be more accountability because they know that they're being watched and listened. And it also is going to show from that officer's perspective of what really happened from their eyes. Some negatives about it would be that if it came from somebody else's perspective that was just watching, that it's only from their view. It's limited, it could be distorted, it doesn't show exactly up close what happened. Some other tools that are used by law enforcement would be tasers, mace, canine. Those are all used as other ways to prevent from lethal force or physical force that will help them to detain the suspect. When law enforcement's out on the streets, they just need to keep in mind that they are representing, their agency, their community, the duties for others that we're to protect and to serve. And when they're not following protocol and they're using excessive use of force, it doesn't really justify. There's all different circumstances, but they're representing, their community, and that they could be the reason that it is negative. Another way to avoid miscommunication when it comes to the use of force would be by following the proper protocol and having all the correct paperwork and documentation, making sure that all the training is done properly with the right firearm procedures and safety. You need to make sure that, first and foremost, the officer is going to protect themselves, and that they're the ones that are going to set the mood by how they speak with the suspect. And that, even if it's constantly a changing scene, always going to be a changing situation, so they need to be able to adapt to change. With the public being better educated on the excessive use of force and how it is defined with the law enforcement, and with law enforcement following their proper procedures and protocols, with the help of the tools that are made, we should be able to implement less use of force when subduing a suspect. Also, with the proper training when it comes to law enforcement being put out on the field.